Everyone has a story. Not everyone has the tools to tell it. At Vibrant's Academy of Creative Arts, we bridge the gap between imagination and the silver screen. Whether you're chasing documentaries or dreaming of Hollywood, your lens starts here. Vibrant's Academy, your story directed by you.
The room existed in perfect darkness, not the soft darkness of shadow and moonlight, but an absolute absence, the kind that pressed against the eyes like velvet. No window allowed the outside world to intrude. The walls, if they could be seen, would reveal nothing but blank paint and the faint texture of aged plaster. The teenager sat before the only source of illumination in the universe, a computer monitor that burned in the void like a blue-white sun. The screen displayed a photograph, a landscape of some kind, though its details remained elusive, the image too compressed, too degraded by repeated saving and sharing to retain coherence. Trees that might have been trees. A sky that might have been sky. The teenager's hand rested on the mouse, fingers loose, idle. The only sounds were the faint hum of the monitor's internal components and the soft, rhythmic exhalation of breath. Then the image changed, not through any command, not through any click. The photograph simply fragmented, dissolving into a chaos of pixels that rearranged themselves into something else. The teenager's fingers tightened on the mouse. The eyes, reflected in the glass, caught the flicker and held it. A static bloomed across the screen, not the gentle snow of a disconnected television, but something organic, something that moved with purpose. The static coalesced into shapes that resembled teeth, rows of them, jagged and irregular, lining a dark aperture that might have been a mouth or might have been something else entirely. They pulsed with a faint, iridescent shimmer, colors that existed nowhere in the room's true spectrum, shifting across their surfaces like oil on water. The mouse clicked, once, twice, a frantic, mechanical percussion in the otherwise silent space. The cursor on the screen moved, obedient to the input, but the image did not change. The teeth remained. The dark aperture remained. The teenager clicked again, faster now, the sound sharp and urgent against the hum of the monitor. Pixels began to bleed. That was the only word for it. Individual points of light detached from the central image and drifted into the black borders of the screen, where they hung like distant stars before winking out of existence. The fragmentation accelerated. What remained of the original photograph dissolved entirely, replaced by a swirling chaos of color and light that resolved, moment by moment, into something recognizable. Architectural lines, precise, geometric, rendered in the cold blue-white of digital drafting software. Walls appeared, measured and true. A door, a window that did not exist. And there, in the center of the rendering, a single rectangle. The desk, the chair, the figure seated before the monitor, rendered in wireframe, a ghost of lines and vertices that approximated the shape of a human form. The teenager's reflection stared back from the screen. Behind it, rendered in perfect digital fidelity, lay the room. The exact room. The walls, measured to the millimeter. The placement of the desk, precise and true. And in the corner of the rendered space, where the physical room held only empty darkness, the digital blueprint revealed something else. A shape, an indentation in the wireframe that should not exist. A space where the geometry curved inward, as if something stood pressed against the wall, invisible in the physical world, but captured in the cold mathematics of the corrupted file. The mouse clicked once more. The sound echoed in the absolute darkness. The screen flickered, the blue light oscillating between brightness and dimness in a rhythm that matched nothing in the room. The teenager's pupils, reflected in the glass, contracted and expanded with each pulse, two dark points in the glowing rectangle. Behind the teenager, in the corner of the physical room, the darkness seemed to deepen. Not a change that could be measured, not a movement that could be tracked, but a subtle alteration in the quality of the black, as if the absence of light had somehow become more absent and more complete. The screen went black, not a gradual fade, not a power failure, but a sudden cessation, as if the image had been swallowed whole. The hum of the monitor ceased. The blue light vanished. The room returned to its original state. Absolute, complete, pressing darkness. For a long moment, nothing moved. The teenager sat in the black, hands still resting on the mouse, breath held. The silence was so complete that the absence of sound became itself a sound. A high, thin whine that existed only in the space between ears and brain. Then the screen flickered back to life. The architectural rendering remained. The wireframe figure remained. But the shape in the corner, the indentation in the geometry, was gone. In its place, the wireframe showed the space as empty, as correct, as measured. The teenager's reflection returned to the glass, two eyes staring outward into the dark room. Behind the chair in the corner, the darkness held its shape.